Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Jeff?
Going pretty good. I just put some gum in my mouth knowing you were about to hit record. I don't know why I did that. I'll take it out. Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. It's been a busy week. Bunch of stuff going on. That's good stuff, but still taking up a lot of my time and just trying to get through all that.
Right on. Yeah. Same here. I know we talked a little bit before we started recording. Both got a lot going on, kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum, but we'll all get through it.
Yeah. Have you checked anything out interesting recently?
Well, yeah, I saw that In Search of Darkness, the first half is now on Shudder.
Oh,
The
cool.
1990 to 1994. I think I mentioned on a podcast a few weeks back that the second half of that documentary was on Shudder, but not the first. And I was, I don't know, I found that very surprising, strange release strategy. I don't know. Um, but it was very good. I mean, I'm sure you watched the three In Search of Darknesses that covered the 80s.
Yeah, I've watched all three of those. I
Yeah.
have a physical copy of the first one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to get my hands on those eventually. I think they're really, really great documentaries, and we've talked a lot about 90s horror on this podcast not being the 90s not being a great era for horror, but watching this, man, there was a lot of great stuff that I kind of just I guess overlooked when I think of 90s horror.
I'm gonna hang in there with my opinion compared to other decades. I'm not saying good stuff did not come out in the 90s. I just think that maybe European and Japanese horror was sort of a little bit better, I think, than what was going on in the States.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. And they do cover some of those films as well, and some German movies, and just some like real underground stuff I'd never heard of before.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to, I guess they have one coming out on the 70s next.
that one's gonna be epic,
Yeah.
man. That's gonna be they better set aside a bunch of episodes for that, man.
Yeah, yeah, the 70s were booming. I was like, "Oh, where are you like I figured they would start to do the 2010s next, but no, they're going to do the 70s." So,
Well, the 70s in general, just as far we talked about this on, all of us have talked about just how like the 70s, they're just filmmaking was just dark, man. And then, probably I would imagine coming out of the 60s and like post Vietnam, the disillusionment, kind of led to like having, just crime films were just dark, dramas were dark, horror, some of the greatest horror films came out, The Exorcist, Halloween, you know what I mean? Texas
yeah.
Chainsaw Massacre, like all those like seminal films came out in the 70s.
Yeah. I mean, people, like people like Quentin Tarantino will talk about how great the 70s were for film and how bad the 80s were. But in horror, the 80s is like it's golden era. I mean, a lot of that stuff is trash, but it's trash we grew up on, so we look at it through a different lens.
I agree, but I thought a lot of pretty solid stuff came out in the 80s that are,
Oh
non-horror,
yeah. Uh,
even just kind of like dark crime films, like, the Manhunter movie came out, like I think
to Live and Die in LA.
Live and Die in LA, that stuff's great, man.
Yeah. So I checked that out, and that's about it as far as movies goes. I'm still ruthlessly collecting records over here. I picked up some great stuff. I just got Swan's Glowing Man in the mail,
Nice.
and Godflesh Post Self. Finally got a hold of that one. I've been looking for it for a little while, and finally got it. Great record, underappreciated, I think, by fans of Godflesh.
Yeah, that was a solid album. We Tombs played with Godflesh one of three dates that they did to support that record. We played the New York date with them.
That's right. That's when Randy was in the
Yeah,
band.
Randy was playing bass for us that back then.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I did not get to see them on that tour. I would have loved to.
Yeah, that was incredible, man. I mean, they played a lot of material off that record, and then obviously some old material. It was cool.
Yeah, they were playing a lot of Selfless stuff, which is my other favorite record from Godflesh around that time because they had performed the whole album in its entirety at the Roadburn Festival. So a lot of that stuff made it into their set from that tour.
fun fact about the show with them. We were the only band with an actual drummer that played on the bill.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else played?
Mirrors of Psychic Warfare,
Oh, yes, with
Scott Kelly uh
Sanford Parker.
Sanford Parker, yep.
Yeah.
And then, Godflesh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, that would suck if your drummer like broke his kick drum or something. Like,
It was
what are you
just
gonna?
funny doing sound check because we were the only guys who got like a proper like sound check, you know what I mean? Because we had a drum set, it was interesting, you know what I
It's
mean?
wild.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, like, dude, I gotta say, like, that episode we just did, Wake and Fright, that was a really good one, man. I really, really liked that film a lot.
Dude, I think it resonated with a lot of people, man. That it's a lost film. I'm glad it's out there for people. There's apparently, I think in June, and I'm definitely keen to pick this up. There's a new Blu-ray coming out.
Yeah.
So that's something I got to get. And yeah, and I wish I'd kept the tape rolling for our post our post episode conversation with Selden with his crazy stories.
Yeah, that was amazing. And then after all that, Selden made this great point that he said, like, oh, I should have made it on the podcast, where he said that film's a lot like, going on tour with a band.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
The
it's
male on male rape.
well, it's for this perpetual cycle of like drinking and debauchery and like chaos.
Murdering animals, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as you do. But yeah, I just had to acknowledge that, like, I never really seen that film. No, I never seen it, period. But like, really only became aware of it through Selden and talking about, we've been talking about doing that episode for quite a while.
I never heard of it until he told me about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm totally a fan. And the book, you should read the book. It's more like a novella. It's like between a novella and a proper novel. And it's so easy. Just you can read it in one day, actually.
I like stories like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I read it pretty much. I think I read it on a plane, actually. On a plane, I had like some travel to do for work, and it was like I read it half on the way out. I had to go to. I think it was the trip I did to Truth and Consequences, New Mexico.
Ooh.
So it was like a long ass multiple flight trip to there, and I read like half there and then half on the way back, and I was done by the time I got home.
That seems like you could have the experience of the book in a place like Truth or Consequence, New Mexico.
Dude, that was a trip, man. It's yeah, there was a facility down there. I was only there for like the day. It was like that's a funny thing about when you do work travel. You travel like 9 hours to be someplace for 4 hours,
Yep.
and then you travel back 6 hours. It's crazy, and it's like so. Yeah, I flew into Albuquerque, and then I had a car rental, and I drove through a sandstorm to get to Truth and Consequences.
Jesus.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy, man. I've driven through like blizzard. It was a lot like driving through that whiteout blizzard we drove through one time on tour, and it was just it took me like basically 2.5 hours to do a 60-minute drive
Oh my
through a
God.
sandstorm. Yeah, it was crazy.
That is terrifying. I remember stopping, like I was on a solo road trip, stopping in Farmington, New Mexico, and just it felt like I was in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like I could just disappear and no one will ask any question, no one will ever know.
Yeah,
New Me-
dude, it's crazy, man. Like you go to these remote places and it's really cool.
Yeah, so I was staying in a motel that was $40 a night. So you can probably imagine the conditions of where I was staying.
Yeah, no, it's there's not a lot of industry out there either, which is odd that I had to go there. But they did have some plants out there that need to be looked at and everything. So
Right. To your point, like I think there was two times I read a book on a flight. One was The Dirt. I think I read the whole
yeah,
thing, and I don't give a shit about Motley Crue, but
no,
that was just such a fascinating book. I read that on a flight out to LA, which is, that's a 6 hour flight, but I had to take multiple flights with layovers. So it was like an all day thing. And coming back from Europe, European tour, I picked up Stephen King's Cell. and I read that whole thing on that flight. And I mean, that's Stephen King at a very low point, I think. I don't know if you've read that
I
one,
never
but
read that one. No.
it's really not good.
Huh.
But I read the whole thing. There wasn't else. I think it was one of the few books there that like, I mean, they were it was in English, and I know who Stephen King is, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I'll always have the experience of reading that really bad book in one go.
Yeah, when you're traveling for work or flying or whatever, it's like you don't want something too challenging, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to read like a Schopenhauer like fucking philosophy book like on the plane, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, totally. I had did the mistake of I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy on a winter European tour. That was bleak, man.
oh man, I read that once again I had to travel for work. This is going back to when that book came out. I had to go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, right? There was like a Pfizer plant out there. And so I was out there for a week and we got totally snowed in. It was like brutal. And the airport is like one of those like tiny airports where like it's not like a major hub for anything. So you had to take like a small plane from the airport in Kalamazoo to I forgot where we flew out of, maybe in, I don't know, Chicago or something like that.
Yeah.
And then so we're snowed in. I read that depressing ass book, balloon in a fucking motel room. Like it was grim, man. And then on the way out, the plane almost got canceled because of the weather was so it was like minus like 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and the plane out kept getting delayed. Like there was too much ice on the runway. Like the instrumentation was frozen. Like nothing was working. Like that sort of thing.
Oh man, yeah, I had a similar nightmare, like flying back to California, and California was on fire, and I was delayed by like days and staying in a hotel. It was just a fucking nightmare. And again, it's something that's completely out of your control. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Do you remember when there was that blackout in New York City? Like back, just going back, like I think you were living in Queens when that happened, maybe.
Yeah, I might have been out in California though, because I don't remember it affecting anything like that affecting me at all.
That blackout was the day that one of our tours ended. And
Mm.
so we drove up from Baltimore and into New York City. And I remember driving, once I got on the Staten Island, everything was just dark.
That must have been completely surreal.
Yeah, totally. And then like when I finally parked and I walked back to my apartment, everything was dark, black. And it
Damn.
was like no one was on the street, and it was like some like post-apocalypse had happened or something. It was like real, like the mass, like that Vincent Price, like the last man on earth.
Yeah, yeah. Holy shit. That's insane. No, I didn't experience that. The 2 years I lived in Queens, I was in LA more than I was in Queens.
Yeah, I can see that for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I moved back to LA. It's like this is fucking ridiculous. But instead of blackouts, LA just, caught on fire. It's a
It happens
trade-off.
out there here.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. What have you been checking out?
Well, I saw the new Faces of Death movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. You mentioned that.
Yeah. All right. Now, I imagine once this shows up on streaming, because it's a Shutter film, we'll probably talk about it. But like, I like the idea of the film. Uh,
Mm,
it's a little iffy, the execution.
okay. Surprised to say it has a seems to be have gotten good reviews.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, the ideas are cool. It's
Mm,
like it's kind of a commentary on like influencer culture, and like I'll say this one thing. Remember like when, well, not, I mean, the movie came out like a long ass time ago. I was in high school. I remember like renting it, and I like remember when I rented the film and I went to a party in high school. Like I walked there and I brought the videotape with me and I put it in the VCR at the party and
of
just
course,
like
of
just
course you did.
bummed everyone out at the party. I sat there by myself watching the movie. You know what I mean? And this is like, right around the time, this is when I discovered like punk rock and like Slayer and all this stuff. So I was like, like this kind of like, outsider like guy. You know what I mean? So yeah,
That's fucking great. I saw Phases of Death. Oh God. I was still a kid. I want to say like 12. It was like a, finally working up the nerve to see it kind of thing. And being, I don't know if let down is a word, maybe more relieved is more the word
yeah,
that it was like, oh, this is fake.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I'm very curious to see it. And yeah, I look forward to discussing that one with you. We were talking about doing that this week, but
Yeah, let's just wait until it's
yeah.
free somewhere. Well, the thing about it too is like back then, when the film like that was made, it was easy to sort of pull the wool over everyone's eyes because media like that wasn't readily available. Like you had, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you physically had to have a film in some format to watch it. Like you couldn't just like go into the ether like now and watch like beheadings and porn and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting statement the film made about that. And I think now it's like you see all kinds of crazy shit. You see, people like just starved for attention on TikTok and Instagram, like jumping off buildings and, whatever. And I don't know, it's definitely worth checking out. I was like pretty engaged through a lot of the film, but yeah, I mean we'll get to it. That's all. I'll leave it. I don't want to get too deeply into it.
Right on. Yeah. Well, I'm intrigued. For sure.
Yeah. I saw totally switching gears. Well, kind of. On Tubi, we watched a film called The Capture of the Green River Killer.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh, you probably would never heard of this one because it's actually a Lifetime production.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Dude, my mom used to love watching Lifetime, right?
Yeah, I think everyone's mom does.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like like but I'm not saying it's good, but I enjoyed it. I was engaged. It's I don't really know much about the Green River Killer. All I know is that it was all in the Seattle Northwest, Pacific Northwest area.
Of
You know,
course.
and it was a pretty effective rendition. Apparently, it was based on a book that the lead detective wrote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it has a little bit of that Lifetime like corniness to it, but I thought it was pretty cool, man. It's on Tubi, so there's no you can watch it for free basically.
I know it's like sometimes you just end up watching something and you don't know why you're watching it. I've done that with a few Lifetime movies.
Yeah,
Or like I remember like flipping through the channels and landing on some like Dean Koontz adaptation
sure.
that
Yeah,
I just killed 2 hours watching something I really had no interest in, but like I'll be like, okay, I'm engrossed, you know. So I get it. I totally get it.
yeah. So that's pretty much I watched that, and let's see, like as far as I started reading the second book of the New Sun just like the other day,
Yeah.
and that's titled The Claw of the Conciliator. And it's like some grim dark sword and sorcery stuff, but it's like the reason why I like it, and this that genre of fiction, it has to have some sort of like cosmic horror element to it, which will attract me to it. And this does. This is like, there's like these kind of like there's this esotericism to it. There's like this cosmic element to the story that I find really interesting. And anyone out
Yeah.
there who's Gene Wolfe is a excellent writer. The Book of the New Sun, it's 4 parts. I'm in part 2 right now, and I haven't been reading them in succession. I've been sort of reading a book, reading a different book, reading something for Everything Went Black, and then going back to this, kind of chipping away at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You read more than anyone I know.
Really?
I think, well, yeah. That's not exactly a hard thing to do considering me and my group of friends, but
No, I like first, it's like straight away in the morning I read. It's like, I do my thing, wake up, do my little, routine in the morning. And then before I even drink coffee, I start reading. and like I have like some nonfiction stuff I read. I talk mainly about the fiction stuff I read, but I also read a lot of history and
Right.
philosophy, and then engineering codes, So
All of my books are still in boxes. I feel like once everything is out and displayed, once I eventually land on my feet and
yeah,
or like get like a steady permanent place where I know I'm going to be for a long time and get all that stuff out, I have a feeling I'll be reading a lot more again
yeah.
because
All my stuff's packed away, man. I have like 2 books out right now.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And you also I think you mentioned you checked out that YouTube channel I talked about in the
Oh
last episode.
yes, yes, sir. Yeah, Alter. Very, very,
Yes.
very good. Very good. And definitely, we should post that on the Necro Facebook page.
Yeah, yeah, I am all about it, man. Like that is really cool, man. Like just like if you got like a few minutes to kill, you can just watch like a short film. Maybe it won't be great, but and maybe you'll find a gem or two.
Yeah, I've been watching quite a few of them, and I would, man, we should talk about it more. I think as an episode, maybe if we go through more of the films, we can pick the ones we like and talk about them or something.
Yeah, it'd be a great idea. Did you watch the Legati one?
Oh yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
good.
I thought it was really cool, man. It
Yeah.
definitely captured the feeling of his stories.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a hard thing to do, I would imagine. Like you're like, what does a Thomas Legati like adaptation look like? And I think that did a pretty good job, man. The dread that you feel reading his stories, they it came across.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel like Nick Pizzolatto really captures the vibe of a Thomas Ligotti
Oh,
story.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And he had millions of dollars to do it too. So,
yeah. And I know that's
um,
controversial. I know that you know, some of the people that are like, for example, John Paget, who's, the executor of Ligotti's estate, has some feelings about Nick Pizzolatto and sort of plagiarism and things like that. So
yeah, I think I remember you talking to him about that on your podcast.
yeah, I had John. I should. Yeah, it's about time we do another episode. But I had him on Everything Went Black a couple of years ago, and yeah, he had some thoughts. Let's
Yeah,
put it that
yeah.
way. I
I'd
actually was
imagine
going
that.
to ask John to read something for the last Tombs album. Like,
Really?
yeah, like he was. Yeah, I was going to approach him about doing like a reading of something just as a little atmospheric element, but we didn't even put that piece ended up not being on the record. So.
I had author Peter Ferris read
Yeah.
from a Legati story for the Crone record, and it's like way in the background, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask him to read something I wrote for.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's about pretty much it for me, man. Like just like I said, I've been chipping away at work, I'm doing this, packing my household up here and all this stuff. So
Excellent.
yeah. So I'm gonna shout out the lads. So if you're listening to this podcast, you should be listening to the other Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse shows that are out there that come at you on a daily basis for the most part. Kicking everything off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Brandon and I are working on a collaboration called The Black Lodge, where we're trading off episodes that talk about the classic Twin Peaks by David Lynch. On Tuesdays, Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere comes at you, the greatest extreme music podcast in the land. Wednesday, we've got Everything Went Black, which I just mentioned, which is my podcast. We have Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of the band Trivax. Thursday is another double shot. It's Necro Thursday, where the Necromaniacs horror podcast comes to you, as well as day one of Soul Knox, brought to you by Carl Hikera. Friday, Spitball Media comes at you, an irreverent pop culture show. They talk about wrestling, pro wrestling, comics, movies, anything that's, sports, a little sports here and there, that sort of thing. Saturday's a day off, and in North America, it's springtime, so summer's around the corner. So go out, enjoy yourself, get some vitamin D. I hear that's good for testosterone levels. Because Sunday Carl Hikara returns with day 2 of Soul Knocks. And Carl and I are wrapping up our Darkness Weaves collaboration, where we talk about the work of Carl Edward Wagner. And recently, we've launched The Savage World of Robert E. Howard. It's our next collaboration where we delve into the savage world of Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan the Barbarian. And that's about it, man. That's a solid week of entertainment for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't have any calls this week, but if you want to get at us, you can hit us on the Necrophone at 908-913-0782, 908-913-0782. And I started posting that in the show notes. So,
Excellent.
in case you forgot, or, to write it down.
Hi, Evie, it's your mama. Just calling to say hi. I'm wondering if you're coming to Mass tomorrow. I haven't seen you in a while. Anyway, I'm just calling you to remind you. You're Mama's little girl. I'm praying for you. Okay, talk soon. I'm praying for you. 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 I'm praying.
Mike, I was thinking we haven't covered a lot of current year films this year.
It's been kind of a slow year, but I feel like things are kind of ramping up a little bit, though.
Yeah, it's about that time. Summer, you always get like one or two kind of horror surprises around this time. And then obviously September, October, you get a lot more.
Well, The Undertone is probably one of the earlier films to come out this year. But aside from that, are you looking forward to anything?
Yes. Zach Cregger's has a new film, Resident Evil, coming out, which, I mean, a video game adaptation, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but since he's the one doing it, I am looking forward to it. There is that creepypasta-ish film coming out next week, I think. The name I just totally went blank on the name. Like, Rooms. It's about yellow rooms or something.
Oh, you mean the Back Rooms?
Back Rooms. Yeah. God, I was way off. Yeah, I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's actually the one I've been looking forward to the most to be released right now.
Yeah. God, if that's disappointing, man, I'm all hope is lost for 2026.
I mean, I'm really hoping that it's going to be awesome. But there's a chance that it might not be good.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that feeling. I don't know why.
I just think, not having seen the film, but having watched a bunch of Kane Pixel's material, and watched a bunch of the Backrooms episodes that have been done by various people, it really works more as this kind of like liminal shorts.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Sort of existing in that, like, it's like a new thing emerging with like, on Instagram, people making like minute-long like analog horror films and things like that. This movie we're about to discuss sort of maybe falls in that realm. Like, I can see like it kind of maybe spawned from something like that.
There was like, I could see that, and I think I welcome that.
Me too.
Honest, I think it's like, as opposed to like just some of the shittiest films I've seen this year that are just trying too hard to go to that minimalist thing is like really, I think, welcome,
Yeah, I mean, if any, Skinamarink from a few years ago really showed that you can really do a lot with not very much at all and create something really powerful and, of course, divisive.
Yeah, not everyone felt the same way about that movie, but
no, God. I mean, I think not debate, but I talk about that movie more than any other movie, and I'm constantly singing its praises, and everyone constantly comes back with, man, that was fucking terrible.
And they're not, I mean, you're not, everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's a lot of just art is that's the greatest thing about art, is that you can debate it and have different points of view on everything. And like, it's like, for example, like, I think I likened that movie to listening to Sun, you know, and it's like, Yeah, you could either love that band or think they're a completely talentless bunch of guys, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
It is exactly how we described it. Like, you can't go into Skinamarink expecting a normal film going experience.
all right, so that brings us to the Undertone.
Yes.
It's the writing and directing debut by Ian Tuason, a Canadian, by the way.
Hmm.
Release dates July 27th, 2025 at Fantasia, March 13th, 2026 here in the US, and it's 94 minutes long. So, yeah.
Yeah. Does not say it's welcome.
Yeah, it felt appropriately edited.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go through the cast here. There's there's only literally like three people in the movie. It's
Yeah.
a lot of voice acting, you know. So we've got Nina Kiri as Evie. She was in The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu.
Okay.
If you've watched any of that. Adam DeMarco, the voice of Adam DeMarco. He was in White Lotus.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really, you know, it just
Did not pick up on that.
Michelle Duquet as the mother. And then a bunch of voices. So we got Kiana Lynn Bastidas as the voice of Jessa, Jeff Young as the voice of Mike, and you know they're kind of main players in this too, even though it's just their voices. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that Evie and her mother are the only two physical actors that are on screen ever.
I think there was one other with the social worker.
Oh, right. Okay.
At the beginning, but yeah, you're right.
For the lion's share of the movie, it's like, yeah. So
yeah.
And that's basically the main gist of the cast. There's some other voices that come in here and there, but you know, it's it's sort of these are the people that we spend most of the time with in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Evie and is a podcaster. And Justin, that's the guy out of DeMarco.
Yes.
His name. So Evie and Justin are doing a podcast, and it's kind of like almost like a Mulder and Scully sort of thing, where one believes in supernatural stuff and the other one's a skeptic, and Evie's the skeptic.
Okay, yeah, it's funny. I thought it was clever writing that down. Like, yeah, X-Files, but it appears you came to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, that's pretty obvious. Like, you know, one's like debating the reality of some of these like, you know, esoteric claims or these supernatural, you know, events and all that, thinking that it's faked, which, you know, in this day and age, it's pretty easy to fake things, you know.
It sounds like an interesting podcast. Like, that's something I would probably listen to.
Absolutely, I would. And if you're interested in fakes and frauds, check out the new episode of Nightmare Movies. He talks about a film called Fraud. It's like such an interesting concept. I'll just leave it at that. Go out there, check it out. It's the latest episode. It just came out like a couple days ago.
Oh, nice. I like that channel.
Little shout out to Mason there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they run the podcast called The Undertone, and, you know, they debate whether or not something's real or fake or, you know, all that sort of stuff. So coincidentally, they have to do this at 3 a.m. every night. the hour of the wolf. If you
yes.
Yeah. So Justin lives in England and Evie lives somewhere in the States. I don't know if they ever actually tell you where. But
I think it's Toronto, which is in Canada, I believe.
Okay, well, there you go. See, my you know, my nationalism comes through. And all right, so she's in North America. Let's put it this way.
Yeah,
Toronto, Canada. This is a Canadian film, so why would it be in the States? Gotcha. All right, so for that reason, they have to do it in the middle of the night, the hour of the wolf, if you will, 3 a.m. You know, so that's Evie is also staying with her mother, who is in her final days. You know, she's terminally ill, she's providing care for her. And
sort of.
well, she's a quote unquote caregiver in this case, right? So
she doesn't really seem to be doing much of anything, but
no,
yeah.
no. So that's kind of the setting. This mostly takes place at night in this one room or in the house, in the mother's room too. And that's kind of the whole vibe of the film is like very much conversation, audio, uh, atmosphere, So I was already like kind of predisposed, at least to be interested in this film, because these are the things that I really enjoy is, dialogue, atmosphere. And I think that so far, when, the film opens, it definitely captures a vibe.
Yes. Yeah. I'm on the same wavelength as you. I love this. This is literally one setting. I don't think we leave the house at all. Maybe quick flashes somewhere else, but you're either in her podcast room, which appears to be like the living room, or you're in, her mom's room.
Yeah.
And this is all dialogue, very little action. And what a little research I saw, like this doesn't seem to be your average horror fan's favorite. I think you're more like general audience is looking more for a thrill ride type of horror, and this is not that. It you mentioned the detail that it takes place at 3 a.m. I loved that detail because it just adds so much to the atmosphere of the film. And the director manages to make it visually interesting too for a movie that really is just a person sitting there. I think he captured that very well. It's one of the strengths of the film.
Well, one of the things you mentioned too earlier is that you were saying that this has a little bit of that liminal horror vibes to it, which it does, because like there's a lot of shots, like long shots of just like darkness, in the house and things like that. These very liminal spaces that definitely called to mind Skinamarink, where it's, I would say conceivably this is the house that Evie grew up in. And
yeah.
So there's all that sort of childhood, echoes that are probably, present for her while she sits there at 3 o'clock in the morning, where there's mother who's, terminally ill laying upstairs in her bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of open space. I was picking up on I wrote down long legs. Like I feel like this director was very much influenced by Osgood Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of shots in long legs where, the actor will sort of be in like the corner of the frame, but most of what you're seeing is just these big open spaces in the room. And your eyes just sort of like, you're watching a horror movie. Your eyes are looking around like, what's happening? Why is there so much space here? Something's going on. And it puts you on the defense, like it makes you a little tense, and I think that's a great thing to utilize for a film like this.
Yeah,
as this is all dialogue. So, and also I got to point out the movie. There are some cliches, but one cliche that manages to avoid is the jump scare. You're constantly waiting for it, but it doesn't come.
and that just creates this like almost like relentless anxiety, because you just expect something to happen the whole time and nothing really does until something does.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a scene with like her holding her mom's arm, and it sort of lingers, and you're just waiting for something to happen, and it doesn't. And I feel like it's more effective than a jump scare.
So a little bit about Evie. It paints a picture of her and her mother sort of not having the best relationship. Like her mother is very, religious. She's like of the Christian sort of faith, and there's religious imagery, religious icons in her room. And also one of the things that Evie, she's also someone who gets into bad relationships. And has had a problem with alcohol.
Yeah. That's one of the things I felt was a little undercooked myself. It doesn't really focus too much. It's there as a detail, but it doesn't really focus. I feel like there's a lot of themes going on in this movie. And I'm not sure it really successfully sticks the landing on a lot of them. But what it does, the things it does do well, it does very well. As I mentioned before, like the atmosphere, the slow burn, the slow pace of it all, the slow gradual payoff, rather.
Yeah, so the main narrative in this film is like, so they receive these 10 audio clips that, to discuss on their podcast. And, that's Mike and Jessa. They're a couple. Okay. And I guess the reason why Mike wanted to record Jessa was to prove to her that she snores at night.
Yeah. Or talks in her. She's been talking.
Talks in her sleep. You know
Talking
what?
in her sleep. Yeah.
That's a little too much personal, too much info on my personal life here. But yeah. Yeah, she talks in her sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she talks in her sleep. So.
Yeah, and these are sent in anonymous, like anonymously, right? Or
yeah, they come and they're labeled in these like sort of weird ways, and so they just start discussing these things, and the couple seems to be very happy, like, oh, this is like they're just kind of taking a piss out of the whole thing, and just the what do I say when I sleep and this and that, and it's very lighthearted initially.
yeah, and as you go through the tapes, it gets darker and darker and darker, and as that is happening, Evie is sort of unraveling along with these tapes.
Yeah, and there's a moment you mentioned earlier how she hasn't been doing a very good job of taking care of her mother.
Yeah.
And one night she actually leaves her mother alone.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. She goes out to like party or whatever. And, this is the beginning, I think, of when she starts drinking again.
Yes. Yeah. She's having a little drink during the podcast after that. As you can see, this stuff is really starting to get to her. Because we also find out that Evie is also pregnant, and obviously it wasn't planned, which ties into the plot. I feel it's not just a external detail. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to give everyone a warning here. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have a spoiler at the end, but I feel like in this case it's okay because it's a new film, I know, and maybe some of you guys haven't seen it yet, but the ending really is something that is open to interpretation. And my take on it, or our takes on it, are just our own personal opinions, I think.
Right. I'm very curious about your take because I'm not really sure I have fully thought out what I feel is happening. Mainly because I feel like this movie is really reaching for something bigger. And I'm not sure it does it so successfully. I mean, it's looking for something bigger and more meaningful than just what we are seeing. Like, there's a lot of themes going on in this movie of parenting, religion, grief and trauma, because it is a new horror movie, and you can't have a horror movie without dealing with trauma and grief. But it's not, I don't think it really connects the dots completely successfully for me. So I'm not really sure how to interpret that ending.
Well, the thing that all right, the line that I'm drawing is I feel like they pretty well established that the two of them don't have a good relationship, the mother and the daughter.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah. So, apparently, just another quick production note. The filmmaker, Ian Tuason, wrote this script while he was actually taking care of his two parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's like this whole like personal element to the film too. I mean, that's neither here nor there when it comes to whether or not the film, portrays all this stuff. But like, so anyway, it's pretty well established that the mother and Evie don't have a good relationship and she kind of resents being there a little bit. Her life is on hold. And then also she has a failed relationship with her partner who impregnated her.
Right.
Okay. So, and this is the leap that I make. Okay. The sort of generational trauma of what's going on here, where it's like, the bad relationship with her mother translates into bad relationships in her adult life and, bad decision making. The Christian sort of, Evie has like left the church. Like she's not a believer really, and that also is the reason why she doesn't believe in any of the supernatural stuff that is that's why she's the skeptic in the team on the podcast.
Yeah. Although she seems pretty on board that something is off almost immediately.
Right. But because finally in her life, she's actually seeing sort of proof that there is something to these things, but most of her life, maybe as a result of being someone who has gone away from the church, has pushed themselves away from that ideology. Cause it's like, I just on a personal level, I just remember like when I, I grew up with a Catholic upbringing, and like early on, I was like, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I went to like, Catholic fucking, I went to a public high school, but I went to like, CCD, Catholic studies, just to get confirmed and all that sort of stuff.
I did that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just like, eventually you realize this is all hokum. This is bullshit. It's like legends,
Yeah.
And then you go hard in the other direction of just being this complete brutal atheist,
Yeah.
And then that lends itself to skepticism for anything that's preternatural or based on faith or something like that. So that's the character that Evie has. Like she came from a family that was religious, and now she's like a complete denier of anything that's not tangible until now.
Right. Yeah. That comes across like pretty well. Yeah, I got Evie as someone who is, definitely trying to escape from something. And we got to say, a lot of this is like done through sound design. It kind of like sets the mood in that. Like, I really liked when she puts on the headphones, the sound just completely drops out in the beginning of the film. So like she is now like in her comfort zone, just shutting out the outside world. And I thought it did a good job of that with just the sound.
No, totally. Yeah.
Which has been pointed out that the sound design in this movie is fantastic. And it really is.
I really wanted to see this in the theater, but I missed out on that.
Yeah.
So, but I did watch it with headphones on.
See, I did not. I did watch it with the sound bar cranked, but I really do feel like a dead quiet theater, it was the probably best way to experience in this, or on like just an amazing home theater setup. I really feel like you're missing something if you watch this on your laptop, or like some shitty speakers you have connected to that laptop. You know what I mean? I really feel like something like that does this film a disservice.
Yeah, I recommend, if you haven't seen this film, to definitely put your headphones on and have a quiet room and get immersed. It's an immersive experience. You know what I mean?
And it is a film that you need to be immersed in sort of times where that's not. I mean, that experience seems to be going away. Of even people watching movies at home, people are so distracted. I mean, when we did our Skinema Rank episode, we said, like, man, you need to put your phone in another room. Like, you will have to be fully in this. And I really feel like this is very similar. Like, you need to just be completely present, or you're going to miss out on some elements of this.
Yeah, I intentionally watched this by myself too, because it was like I watched this like in our living room while my wife was in the bedroom. So, just so I can, get the headphones on, get the lighting right, and just like dive into the film without talking. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, I would watch it with someone who fell asleep. So But you have the living room window open, you hear street sounds, and even like little things like that. Yeah, you kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we're going through the audio files, and we start hearing things. So one of them is Jess is singing London Bridge, right?
Hmm.
The children's song and all that stuff in her sleep. And and of course, like the Led Zeppelin song, Stairway to Heaven, they start playing these things backwards, and they start hearing other things like, Mike kill all in some of the stuff that they're doing here, some of the
Right.
songs.
Why did they end up playing these backwards?
I don't know. That was the thing. It's like that's what you do, man. You get a satanic message when you hear things backwards, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I think like it was Justin who started to hear things in there,
Yeah.
and he's the one who points that out. Yeah,
So this is when they start going into the kind of darkness of nursery rhymes, and
right.
how a lot of these like old nursery rhymes have to do with death and like famine and things like that.
Yeah, that's completely true.
It is true.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's something I never really thought about. I'm glad the film acknowledges or that or like. I mean, when this opened up and there was like a creepy nursery rhyme happening, I kind of rolled my eyes to tell you the truth. It's something you just done to death in horror. You've heard it a million times. So I'm glad they made it a part of the story and not just like little atmosphere thing.
Yeah, I agree with you about that completely because it's cheap when they do it just for atmosphere.
Yeah, it's like like it's fucking you see it in a million trailers now, and it's just like I don't know when that happened, I was like, oh God, really? Um, but I like that it totally went somewhere with it.
Yeah. And so she recalls that her mother used to sing Ba Ba Black Sheep to her. And that
Hmm.
was like her favorite nursery rhyme when she was a kid. And that's right around the time that Evie discovers that she's pregnant, apparently, is when she starts recalling the Ba Ba Black Sheep nursery rhyme.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, so her mother is completely immobile, and you know her mother appears to be in the final days when like there's no response to anything. So Evie does talk to her mother though, but she has no idea whether or not she hears her or not. And she tells her mother that she's pregnant, which I is another thing that I think is like it it's not really stated, but you get this kind of, well, there's so many things that have to do with mothers and their daughters in this film,
Yes. Yeah.
you know, and childhood and being pregnant and birth and things that are it's like a female fucking thing, man. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. And that's another. I feel like the mother daughter thing, what was going on between them, again, a little underdone. I could have used some more about their relationship.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying, but I personally felt like I had all I really needed from that. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
but
There's
I
enough
could,
there to make an like
yeah,
to make an assumption on what's going on. I don't need everything completely spelled out, but I just a little bit more in depth would have gone a long way for me.
yeah. So that's like, that's like I guess personal thing. That's fine. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't. I could I would welcome more, but I felt like
yeah,
I had enough though. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So they're getting deeper into these voice memos that they're sending over this audio, um, which I thought that was kind of cool because I spent a lot of time with audio, either doing the podcast or doing like music stuff, and I'm used to I liked seeing wave files up on the screen,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So there's some gibberish that initially she thought was just nonsense, that Jessa was doing on one of the audio files, and this is where the backwards stuff comes in. Okay,
Hmm.
and they swear that they heard "come in Abizu."
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
watched this with subtitles on, so I was like trying to like read it backwards. And I got come in, and I was like, the last thing didn't make sense, which of course we find out Abizu or whatever is
yeah.
a demon. And I wanted to ask you, does this have any basis in any sort of folklore, or is this a
Yeah.
new creation
I had
for
to
the
look
film?
it up, honestly, because I didn't know. It didn't, resonate. Like I didn't, I didn't know off the top of my head. But apparently, I mean, it is something that's part of a European and Middle Eastern folklore, and it's a Abizu or Abizuth. That's another word, and it has to do with, and it also plays a little bit into some ancient Christian folklore as well. There's a quote that I found online for Abizuth: "No work other than the destruction of children." Okay,
Wow.
yeah. So just think about this for a second. So Abizu is like, and this does show up a lot in other folklores too. Is back in the ancient world, childbirth was. I mean, childbirth is brutal, no matter even today. Like natural
Yeah.
childbirth. It's like it fucking terrifies me. You know what I mean? I think about like how did we evolve to bear children that way? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just seems so unlikely that anyone would survive, anyone, the mother or the kid would survive childbirth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we have like modern medical procedures and things like that. But back in, ancient times, it was frequent that women would miscarriage or the
Hmm.
child would die, so, back, pagan beliefs, it was their attempt at describing the physical world. So of course, all this, dead children, there has to be some demonic entity that's causing children to die and all this sort of stuff. And even like think about postpartum depression too. That's like, women killing their children, right?
Hmm.
So Abizu is the entity that is possessing, is manifesting the deaths of all these kids. So that's what we have now.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And it's around this time like a creepy kind of like miniature little like figurine shows up in the house of what looks like the Virgin Mary with babies crawling on her.
Yeah,
And
it's I'd like to get one of those.
yeah, seriously, come on, A24, make that available to purchase. And creepy children's drawings that our main character seems to be subconsciously drawing.
Yeah. So yeah, there's now like there's the feeling that something is actually happening now in the house, like more so. Like there was a feeling, and then now there's like actual, once the audio is manifesting something. Like she's listening to this audio, and it's opening up some sort of doorway, which is allowing this entity into her life somehow.
And well, I found like, again, the children drawings, I was like, oh, really?
Again, right?
Yeah, like, come on. But there's other ways to show that I like, a lamp turning on upstairs and it's not really acknowledged. Like she kind of notices, but doesn't maybe want to. I liked that a lot more. And I liked the perspective of the camera. It has this voyeuristic feel to it, like a lot of shots from like, like she's being observed.
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked how they showed it that way more than like the drawings was a little over the top for me.
Yeah, drawings are a little on the nose, a little rote, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
but yeah, but still, still we're fucking doing great in this movie, I think, man. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. This guy's first film. What do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. And for $500,000, this movie was made.
Yeah, I mean, it's I tell you what, man, I'll take this over Primate, the movie we did a few weeks ago.
No, I didn't see that. Yeah, you didn't like it.
No, man.
You know what though? Like I was thinking, like we were just talking about Alter at the big the short film channel, horror film channel on YouTube. This kind of feels like within that realm. Do you know what I mean? Like I could see like this guy starting out doing something like that, and now he's moved on to like a feature, or this almost feels like a short film
Yeah.
stretched out to 90 minutes.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. But I still don't feel like it overstayed its welcome, though. Really.
No, no, not at all. No. But
Yeah.
so I wonder, I'm like, how would this work as like a 20-30 minute film? Would it work better? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So that's. Yeah. Abizu is forcing it. Now, and I'm going to say another thing here too. All right. This is also kind of like I talk about this. This comes up frequently when we talk about possession. You know how it's
Mhm.
like somewhere out in our consciousness, there's these things, that are perceived as being entities, but are actually just part of human consciousness. That we talk about possession, we talk about like evil, and you know, is it possible that Abizu exists inside of everybody, and certain things happen in the world of the material world that conjures that into someone's life, and they go out and murder somebody.
Mm.
That's my personal theory of possession. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That
Well,
there's these
yeah.
archetypical things that exist in our consciousness that somehow, if the right things happen, you turn into this thing. You know?
Wonder if that would hold up in court.
I don't
um,
know. Maybe
well, that's an interesting question because I have like it written down. Why is any of this happening to her?
Yeah,
Which reads, is this even really happening? um, which I believe it is, but maybe not. I don't know.
yeah.
Because I mean, she's not the only person that is pregnant in the world. Why is this specifically happening to her? Which made me wonder, like, is something more psychological happening?
Well, there's also that kind of like thing of the conjuring of this entity, which kind of happens with the audio files too. That's like the doorway that opens, that allows Ibizu into Evie's world.
Yes, but those were sent to her specifically. Them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like she was like chosen, it all like it wasn't random.
right. That's a good point. Yeah,
Um, which I mean, that could just be I don't know, a plot hole or just a creepy horror movie device to make like, because this movie does have like a cliche I really hate in horror movies. I bring it up all the time. The vague messages from the other side, I call them,
yeah.
where like little bits of information are doled out in a way that has to be deciphered. Why? Because you need a slow burn. That's why.
Yeah.
Um, but it did make me think like, okay, like it's very specific to her in this film. Like she was chosen for these messages, but why? So it made me like, maybe interpret the ending maybe differently. Maybe this is all somewhat in her head, and this is all a construction. Like, is her podcast partner even real? Is like,
Well,
I'm not sure.
I believe the podcast Justin guy. I believe he's real. I believe they have a show.
Yeah.
Now let's think of it this way too. Like, for example, this show, The Undertone, is an audio podcast where people send things to her, or to them rather, right? So
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a normal thing. And I imagine, I listen to a few shows like this, a few like
I love paranormal stuff.
yeah, like I listen to a couple of these podcasts like this, and like it's, could there be someone out there who went through this experience, like like this guy, like someone. There's some callers who experienced it. That goes into this later, which we don't really have to expand on at this stage. But like, there are people who are like aware of a Bizu in the world, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Could one of those people be nefarious and be like, you know what, this person isn't a believer? This is another thing too, where it's like, she left the Christian church. Okay, now like she's a non-believer in any, in God or Jesus or any of these things, these legendary people out there. Could there be someone out there who is offended by that and it's like, oh, she doesn't believe I'm going to send these files to her and
Hmm.
destroy her life of the life of the infidel,
Ooh, that's, see, this is what happens when I only watch a film once. I
Yeah.
miss, I don't pick up on things. And I feel like now that you say that stuff about like them, that, it seems obvious to me. But
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
it's like, that's, yeah, I would love to have a show like this where people
Yeah, yeah,
send stuff in,
seriously.
but like, I wouldn't even know how to start, you know what I mean? But like, but yeah, it's, someone clearly sent these things to her, this anonymously, because it turns out that, spoiler alert, Mike and Jessa don't make it. You know what I mean?
Uh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they tried to contact the person who sent the files, and the email gets bounced back because it seems no return address sort of thing, or email doesn't exist.
Yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of like people out there that get into, dark things, it's like, even like in the world of the people that I know that are like, magicians or whatever, like, there's people who are into white magic and black magic, and they're into all sorts of these like dark esoteric studies, like
Mm,
Order of Nine Angles and stuff like that, like all these like you know uh, uh chaos, fucking cosmic pessimism, like all this stuff, you know what I mean?
sure.
So it's like, who's to say that someone had possession of these audio files and like sent them to her as someone who's reading, a listener of the show who understands her to be someone who's not, a believer in anything, and I'm going to show her that there is this darkness out there.
Mm. I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah,
That's
because
okay.
yeah,
I'm
because
on board with that.
yeah. So we're closing in on the climax of this film. So if you don't want to, now here's your warning. Like,
Okay.
if you
Well,
want, I'm sorry, Jeff, were you going to go ahead and say something?
while we're on things I don't quite, I might have missed. This is like shown as like they're recording a podcast to put on the air, at a later date. But then later it shows them taking calls.
All right, so there
I
was, okay, one clarification here. This
Okay.
was, there were multiple episodes that came out. Yeah,
It
because
says like, oh, we're going to split this in two, but I assume this is still a recorded podcast. But
yeah.
how are they taking live phone calls? I missed something there.
Well, that's a good question, actually. I don't know. You know what? That kind of slipped by me. I was thinking that too. I'm like, well, do they have some kind of, are they live streaming it at some point? And if you're 3 a.m., like who the hell's listening in the Eastern Standard Time at 3 a.m. really?
Right?
Except
Yeah.
you're a truck driver or something.
If you are listening, please, and you have an explanation, please hit us up in the Instagram comments. Is that was I was kind of harping on that at the end of the movie, like, wait a minute, what did I miss?
All
Anyway,
right. Yeah. So that's a leap of faith right there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So things start escalating, and once again, here's the spoiler, and
Hmm.
proceed at your own risk here, because I'm going to put my idea out there about what happened, and I urge people to give us what they think happened at the end of the film.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because
So
I kind of spoiled mine already. That like I was not, like I said, I only watched this once, but part of me was feeling like this is some more of a psychological experience, and this is like a lot of this is happening in her head, and we're watching someone have a complete emotional and mental breakdown. But with the things you've just said, like I feel like I'm wrong now, so I'm really
no,
really
there's no
curious.
right or wrong, man. It's just, these are just ideas.
I'm very curious for your interpretation
Yeah.
of this ending, because I mean this was cool. I kind of liked the last 10 minutes of this.
Yeah. So all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
It's like she starts, maybe she's hallucinating some of this stuff. The walls are covered with these scrawled like pictures, childlike but evil and dark, that sort
Mm-hmm.
of thing. She sees her mother walking backwards, right? And then we're intercut with an image of her with like a plastic bag over her head. right? And then they're screaming, and it just ends, basically. Okay. All right.
Strong Blair Witch vibes with this
Very,
ending.
very, yeah. The very, very much. I agree. This is what I think. Okay. All right. Remember, the fact that Evie was pregnant is intentional, right? She's pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant.
Oh, 6 weeks. Okay. All right. Good. I was like,
She's
I
not
thought
showing at this stage,
yeah.
right? Abizu is a killer of children, and also is attributed to miscarriages. Okay. There's unresolved issues between her and her mother. Okay. So this is what I think was going on. Someone out there sent her these files. Okay. The files, there's like in some of the files, I don't know if we maybe failed to mention this. There's like some chanting and things like that. There's like, Abizu backwards, all that. So Abizu came through this doorway that was created by the audio. All right. My belief is that spirit possessed her mother, who was essentially on her way out of this mortal coil.
Okay.
And her mother murdered Evie as well as killing the unborn child, because that's what Abizu does. Murders children and miscarriages. That's my take on it.
I think that's a very good take because, I was thinking, I was like, the mother doesn't really tie into this much more than like a thematic device. So that would make sense. Like, now like she needs to be there because she kills Evie.
Yeah. And like the fact that like she was, almost, it might be easier to possess her since she was like basically dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that idea. We got to point out too that Evie, they get a call from someone named Abby, and she starts kind of breaking down and like saying, Abby, I killed my mother, and I kind of perked up and went, "What?" And,
oh yeah.
like,
right.
And then she sort of goes into this like more in like a metaphorical, so she wouldn't pray with her. I felt like that was a little out of it felt out of nowhere to me a bit. And maybe like an unearned moment. Like I didn't really connect the dots with that moment there, but I don't know how you felt about that.
Yeah, I totally left that out. Now Abby, Abizu.
Yeah, as we were just, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of figured that one out, but like when she says like I killed my mother, that was a little, I didn't really quite think that was it was bizarre.
That was a little,
just a little much. Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
It just felt unearned in the moment. I don't know, but I like your interpretation of the ending. Like as you mentioned, it was very Blair Witchy. I probably bummed a lot of the audience members out, but I sort of liked that vague, open ending in a horror film that leads you to kind of come to your own conclusions, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pay attention in this movie. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of like my thing and why I liked it so much. And
that's what I'm saying. Like something like that is not really geared towards a modern audience in that way, where no one's paying attention to anything.
What I really like too, this is we live in a world where everyone wants like just 30-second bits of things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now a lot of these films are being made by young people. Like this guy. What the hell's his name? Ian. This is his first film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's got to be a young guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's tapped to direct the next Paranormal Activity movie, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I you know what, man? I've been thinking about rewatching some of those recently.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the first two.
I
All right,
liked
so
the first one a lot, and the one that was like a spin-off about the kids in LA and the Mexican sort of neighborhood. That one was pretty good. The rest, I think the third one was pretty good. I don't know. There's too many of them. I don't know.
yeah,
They got really bad at one point.
I'm trying to figure out how old this guy is. Ian Tuason.
I would
Tuason.
guess late 20s, early 30s. That'd be my guess.
Why don't I put his fucking name in here? All right, let's see. Let's see what the machine here has to say. This is sick that there's like dead air now.
You can cut it out.
All right, let's see. 41. So he's like
Really?
not, yeah, he's older than I thought he was.
Hmm.
All right, so it's his first film. He's 41, which is still like, like I
At,
feel
at
like
our age, it seems kind of young.
well, no, but well, what I'm trying to say though is 41 is like a millennial,
Yeah.
right? So, all right, but Kane Pixels is like 19.
Okay.
And there's nothing rush none of his stuff is like you got to take your time with that shit too,
Yeah.
you know? Like yeah, the episodes are short, but the overarching story is like epic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that young people are not obviously this guy's he's young-ish, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Is like they're not it's so completely brain dead that they can't comprehend anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's, yeah, it's very cliche for people, of our generation to criticize young kids as like being like brainless and stupid and can't produce anything good, but that, or isn't it anything cool? But that's, far from the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. Like,
Yeah.
I think Justin Parsons, not Justin Parsons, Kane Parsons, I think is a talented filmmaker.
Hmm.
And I'm looking forward to what else he does. Didn't you say, he was picked to do something else, maybe?
The guy who did this?
No, Justin Parsons, not Justin Parsons, Kane Parsons.
Oh, no. Did I say he was going to do something? No, I
Yeah.
can't remember now.
Well, anyway, him and like Kyle Ball, the guy who did Skinamarink too. They're like,
Mm.
that's like the atmosphere. You got to take your time. It's not like watching a fucking TikTok video. Those are the things that I like about these young guys.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He definitely shows a command of atmosphere and tone, which is, I mean, for me, that's sometimes the most important thing.
Yeah, for me, it definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have any thoughts about the ending for your take on it?
Not well, like I said, like a part of me was like, like, is this actually happening, or is this someone just having a complete collapse? Clearly her life was not on a great track. Severe, drinking, maybe unwanted pregnancy, bad relationships, taking care of a dying mother. That's a lot for anyone to handle and can cause a breakdown on anyone. So maybe that's what we're watching. That was sort of that's my interpretation of so many things. Like, oh, it's just in their head. Um, but I don't think the movie really tips his hat to that. I think what you're on, I think you hit on something that's far more accurate.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this movie again, I think, this weekend because my wife
I
was like, "Why didn't you watch this with me?" And I was like, "Well, I had to pay attention to this thing to talk about it."
I really felt like I would have benefited more from a second viewing. I just wasn't able to squeeze one in this morning because I was sort of like of two minds about the movie. Like when I was mulling it over to talk about, I'm like, it wasn't bad, but I'm not sure if I really liked it. And the more we talked about it, the more I feel like I lean towards I did like it, and I
Right
do
on.
want to watch it again.
Yeah. Well, so what grade would you give this film?
For one, my first viewing, 3.5.
Okay.
There's a lot of good stuff there, but I feel like there's also some things that were like, like I said, like there's some cliches that it did avoid with the jump scares, but there's some it just banged its head right against. And I felt like I feel like this guy was really reaching for something deeper and meaningful that just didn't quite get there. But there's enough really good stuff in this movie. I also wanted to point out that I don't feel like it portrayed a podcast realistically.
No.
Like I felt like that was a little like could have been done a little bit better, but
I
whatever.
agree.
That's not really the, it's I felt like that movie that we did another movie that
Monolith.
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 Yeah.
Yep.
That one was more I liked that one too. But I don't know. I might give it a higher rating had I watched it again, maybe bump it up to a 4. But no, this was good.
Yeah.
And definitely interesting enough to warrant another view and to recommend that people watch it.
I loved it. I gave it a 4.5.
Cool. Wow.
It's probably my favorite film of the year so far, honestly.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that in the text messages, but we were also saying that like, well, in another year, maybe this doesn't even hit the top 6.
Yeah, it's I really, really enjoyed it. This year, man, dude, I only have 2 movies that I really liked so far. However, like The Passengers coming out, that looks like a good film.
Okay, yeah, I've been
Overdahl.
Yeah, that is out. Obsession, people keep telling me about, is supposed to be really good. I'm sure, but by the time we do our top 6, we'll have more to choose from. And I'm curious to see if this lands on your list at the end of the year.
Yeah. There's of course we touched on Backrooms earlier.
Yeah.
Like that one looks really cool.
And Ben Wheatley put out a movie this year that I've yet to see. I know it's not a horror movie, but it's Ben Wheatley. It falls under that umbrella. So
yeah, I definitely need to see that. I love Ben Wheatley.
Actually put out 2 movies this year.
What was the other one?
Bunk and Normal.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. Bunk is more experimental and Normal is more like it looks like a studio film with like, actors you recognize.
Yeah, I got to catch up on those. Definitely.
Yeah, we do. We gotta cover those.
Yeah.
It's our duty.
I think I mentioned that I finished reading The Monumental a few weeks ago, the Adam Neville.
Yes. Yeah.
Ben Wheatley and Adam Neville need to team up and make a film out of that book.
All right, we need to make that happen.
Dude, it's so it's the two of those guys are so would work so perfectly together, I think.
Yeah, we had mentioned like had he directed The Ritual, like a home run right there.
Because like they're both like so fucking British, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Neville's work, his writing is so British. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally get it. I'd rather see Ben Wheatley doing something like that than The Meg 2, which
well,
I mean.
That makes him money for his mansion. So
yeah, I get it, but it's disappointing as a fan.
Yeah. Well, that was good, man. We had a good talk about this, I think.
Yeah. I really, like so many times we talk about something, I come away like, okay, I feel a little bit higher on it. So yeah, awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Take care. Bye.